Hello, I'm Site Skills with Scott, and in today's episode we're going to be flooring and joisting this set of joists. Now we're only going to be joisting and flooring this back section, which is slightly smaller, but the same principles of joisting and flooring will still apply even if you're doing a larger set. Now the only reason I'm doing this back section is the other two lads that are working with me, they're doing the larger set. So let's get into it. First off, we asked the forklift very nicely if he can lift the joists up for us. That makes life much easier as you don't have to manhandle all the joists up. Now a joist, if you're wondering what these are these timber beams that span from one side of the building to the other. They rest on the blockwork and they connect together with nails, or they typically sit together using joist hangers. These are an I-beam joist which are made up of a 2x2 piece of timber on top, 12mm OSB webbing in the middle and another piece of 2x2 at the bottom. And if you look at the joist from the end, you can see why they call it an I-beam. So our first job is we unload the joists from the forks. We keep referring to the drawing to match up which joist goes where, and then we lay the joist in the area that they go. Typically, if there's multiple joists that are the same size or same code, we stack them up. This way there isn't loads of joists spread out over the whole plot and you're tripping over and then you can't do your marking out. So first off, I like to mark where our end joist is going. So this is the joist that sits to the outside edge of the building. Now I'm using a 300mm rafter square because if I mark the inside of it, it then leaves a 22mm gap on the end, which is the exact size of our 4x1. This works really well as we have to leave a 20mm gap from the edge of the flooring to the edge of the block. So if our end joists are sat 22mm in, we know that we can finish our flooring flush with the end of that joist and it will then be 22mm away from the blockwork. Right, let's get these end joists in place. So I'm just grabbing one end joist, which I think these are J2s, and flushing it up with the end of the block because the joist cannot hang over into the cavity. Now I'm just going to tack it on the inside with one nail, same on the internal wall, set that to 22, tack that there. I'm going to do the same down the other end. Now one thing to mention, depending on the manufacturer of your joists and also your NHBC inspector, you shouldn't really be nailing through the joist into the block. Now typically this is with staircraft joists, as the I-beam joist is made out of a true 2x2 piece of timber and it can split if nailed on the end, whereas these Donaldson joists are made out of laminated sections of timber. They aren't so susceptible to splitting. Now we're going to put a line between the two joists that we've tacked in place. This will give us a nice long straight edge to then put the rest of the joists into. It's important when you're using a string line to pack it off the same both ends, so I'm just sliding a nail behind the line. That way it gives us a couple of mil wiggle room when we're putting in each joist. So now I'm just going through setting all these joists in roughly position. Now this is quite an easy set. They're at 600 centres coming off of this wall nearest us. Now the important bit, setting out. Now this first joist is important. So we're going 600 from the outside of our outside joist to the centre. This ensures that when we lay our floor in, the board will be flush with the outside of that last joist and join in the centre of one of our other joists at 600 centres. So I'm going through, just pulling it just off the line. Now, have you noticed I'm hooking my tape on the second joist in. Now, because this is a multiple of 600, we're measuring from the same side to the same side. So I've hooked it on that outside edge. So I'm going through, pulling every joist to 600 on that outside edge. Now I'm just going through, putting one tack in. I'm just double checking myself because there's nothing worse than setting all the joists in place and then you realise you've done your setting out wrong. I'm repeating the same process as I did the other end, so hooking my tape on the outside joist, putting that to 600 to the centre. It is important to make sure you don't have any other beams and things in the way like this one that I have here. I'm just going to move that out of the way. I'm going to rehook my tape on there and just reposition that to the right centres. Just going through, pulling all of those to 600, and then I'll come back through and nail them once I'm happy with the position. Again, I'm only just putting one nail to tack them in place. Now this little section near the stairwell does have a ring beam, so this is a section of timber that runs along the side. It bears half on the blockwork and then half it will get attached onto the joists. Now this is quite handy as it holds the joist upright and in place. So I've squared that first one and then I can then just measure parallel off of that. Same thing, 600 to the centre from one side, nail that, and then once that stairwell trimmer is in place, I can then put the second section of ring beam in, and now I'm just going through marking 600s on top. I can then pull them to the line and then just nail it top and bottom. So using our big rafter square again, I'm ticking off that 22mm that we did before on the block work, except this time I'm ticking off the bottom, so I'm making a line that's 22mm inside the block and then transferring that to the top. So this is where we're going to run the edge of our perimeter noggins to. So I'm going to put a chalk line between those two marks and then ping a line. So again, if we have to cut any flooring off, I can just measure straight to this edge, and I know that that edge is then going to be 22mm away from the outside block work. When you're cutting noggins, you don't have to measure every single one beforehand. For example, these joists are at 600 centres. The joists are 45mm wide. If we take off 45 from 600, we'll end up with 555. After I've cut all of these, I'll then lay them in place, and then I will then check the measurements of the nogs that go on the end of the joists, as these are the ones that I don't know yet. Once I've cut the nogs, I like to lay them in between the bay that they'll be going into. This way it helps me identify if I've missed any, and also once they're all cut, I can then go around with my nail gun and then just nail everything in place. When nailing my perimeter noggins, I typically use 90mm or 75mm ring shanks. I nail 2 nails through the side of each joist going into the nog. Just be careful not to shoot your fingers, as 90mm nails do like to curl out the side. And also, the angle that you're firing, you can accidentally shoot over the top of the joist, which can catch you in the fingers sometimes. If you have a lot of joists at the same centres, like these for instance, I'll typically install the first nog and then all the ones at the same centres, so all of these at 600, and then these last two I will then cut in situ. This is because as you put your noggins in, the joists might slowly push over, or your centres at the end might need tweaking a little bit. That's why it's best to cut these last two nogs to their exact size. Now, I've not come across anyone else that does this, so I like to calculate where my flooring is going to go before I fit any of my lateral restraint straps. This is because there's nothing worse than you fit your restraint straps, you go and start laying the floor, and then your tongue of your floorboard lands right on top of a strap, and it's then really hard to get in, you can't then lift the board up, and it's just a fight. So what I've done is I've laid out where my flooring's going to go. My flooring's going to start laying from the centre of the joist going outwards. I've marked a rough position of where my strap's going to go, as a strap can't be any more than 2 metres away from a blockwork wall, and then I've then measured off the ends to a nice round measurement, usually a multiple of 100, and now I'm just transferring that mark through both ends of the joists. This way the strap will land right in the middle of a board, so when it comes to laying the floor we won't have any issues. I also like to square down my marks, as when I come to put the blocking in, it takes the restraint strap, I don't have to square it. So now I'm just measuring my end joist as what spacing I've got, and I think this one is 530. Now a little trick that I do is I measure 40mm in from the size that I want, so I marked 490, and that's what I put my square to. I then run my circular saw down the side, and then that cuts to exactly the size I need. Now my saw is 40mm from the edge of the saw to the blade, so by taking off 40mm from the measurement I need, I can then line my square up with it and run my saw down the side, ensuring I get a noggin the exact size I need, and it will be perfectly square. Now our final component to cut for the restraint strap is the packer that goes on the side of the joist. Now when we set these joists out, we set the end one in 22mm on our square, which is the same size as a bit of 4x1. So now I'm just cutting 2 sections of 4x1, and as I say, these are going to be the packers that nail on the end of the joist, that pack between the joist and the blockwork. I'm installing the blocking for the lateral restraint strap using 75mm gun nails, and I'm just nailing through the top and the bottom of the joists on both sides to give this a good secure fixing. Here's some point of view footage of me fitting this block in. As you can see, the marks we already put on the joist earlier make this much quicker for installation, as you haven't got to then stop and mark out each time you get to it. You can just run through doing one process of installing the blocking. Now the last step of these restraint straps is fitting the strap itself. Now I set these at just over 100mm, now I'm talking like 103mm, like a couple of mil wiggle room, and these have to have 8 mechanical fixings spread out evenly across the strap. Now another thing we do is I bend the strap down and then put a nail in the end. This looks much neater, and also an unsupported strap can result in the floor squeaking in the future. Now this step may vary depending on the brand of joist that you're using. Now these Donaldson joists, we have these plastic end caps that go in. Now sometimes there might already be a section of 4x1 on the end of the joist, or you might have a cap that goes over the end. This is so that when they install their block work, they don't then have to fill in the big gap between the end of the block and where the OSB is. So this just fills the gap. So I'm going through, just fitting them by hand. I will then come back through afterwards and just install a 1-inch screw through the side. This secures it in place and prevents it from blowing off or falling off. With the end caps all fitted, I'm now writing the number of internal noggins there are per bay of joists. I cut these 5mm under the actual size between the joists, as these have to be installed with what's called a Z-clip, which go on either end, then that gets nailed to the top of the joist. And because of this, you need to have a few mil wiggle room on this, so I tend to go 5mm under what the internal size is between the joists. These are the Z-clips that I mentioned earlier. Each noggin gets one Z-clipped on either end, and these are secured with 2 nails per Z-clip. These internal noggins on the Z-clips are designed to support any internal walls that will be built above on top of the chipboard. They also are put in to support any additional load that may then be bared on top of the chipboard in future. Now most joist drawings that I've come across don't actually give specific measurements to the locations of these internal nogs, they're just shown roughly where they are. So as a general rule, I don't tend to exceed 600 centres with them, and also I'll count however many there are. Say for this one example, there are 5 in this row. I'll then evenly space them out, making sure that they don't exceed 600 centres. The nogs that I'm now cutting aren't actually shown on the drawing. I'm just putting these in additionally, as these are going to be supporting the flooring. Now you'll see in a minute when I go to install these that where I'm actually putting the noggin in, this will be supporting the flooring, as typically your flooring would start from where the ring beam is. I'm actually going to be starting my flooring one joist back. Now this joist is actually a multiple of 600 in terms of 600 centres, which means the other section of flooring, which is the ones that I'm not laying, they'll be able to use either a half board or a full board. So the reason that I'm putting these noggins in and starting my flooring from there is so that when they start their flooring, they'll be able to use a full sheet or a half sheet. They won't have to do any cuts. So the long and short of it is, it saves the cuts you have to do on your flooring. You can see that these are being nailed in line with my existing joists, and they're being nailed in at 1200 centres. This allows so that no matter where my board joins, there will be a support underneath it. So first job with flooring is I'm cutting all my half boards. These are at 1200. I like to get these cut and all the flooring stood up next to the floor, so then that way I can just lay the floor as quickly as possible. I haven't then got to be doing any specific cuts. I can just grab the flooring, glue it, and then get it straight down. This is the most efficient for me. I also like using this wooden square that I've made, as it allows me to put one mark on the board and do a nice square cut. As I say, I like to load all the flooring out where it's got to go, so all these half boards I'm stacking on the end, and I'm trying to lay it so that I can just grab the board and lay it straight down. I haven't then got to start spinning it around and getting it the right way around. After that, I then load out the full size sheets. Same thing, I'm trying to be conscious of which way around I lay them, so as you can see I'm laying it with the paper facing away from the flooring with the tongue pointing forwards. That way when I'm stood on the joist I can just lay the board down and I've already got the groove pointing up, so I can put glue in it and get it down as quick as possible. You don't realise how much time you lose when every single sheet of flooring you've got to spin it around, spin it over, and this gets really tiring when you've got to lay like 60 sheets. So I'm going to be putting this chalk line straight down the centre of this joist. This was the one that I mentioned earlier, that's at 600 centres. This is going to be where we start laying our flooring from, and we're going to want this to be as straight as possible so that if our first row of boards is straight, then that will carry on throughout the rest of the floor. I'll also be tacking a 4x1 to the edge of this line to give my flooring something to butt into. Now, last thing that I do before I start doing any flooring is I then just tack the 4x1 that I mentioned. So I'm tacking it on that chalk line that I've just put on the top of the joist, and I'm just tacking it in there with some 60mm nails, leaving the head hanging out so I can pull it out easier. Now you're probably wondering why I'm using a sledgehammer to tack these in rather than like the normal claw hammer. So when I'm flooring, I then take out any tools that I'm not using. Obviously I get gloves on so I don't get covered in glue, and I also use a little tiny 2.5 pound sledgehammer to then knock my sheets together. I'd actually got all this ready and then realised that I forgot to put the 4x1 on, so that's why I'm using this hammer. And that is the end of the first half of this episode. The next half will then be the flooring itself. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Site Skills with Scott. I'll see you again in the next episode.